Hebrews 13:2. Do not forget to show hospitality to strangers, for by so doing some people have shown hospitality to angels without knowing it. I am an angel of God. My job is to bring back the one of God's 100 sheep who have wandered off. I weave my way into these people's path in all sorts of ways, and after they show me hospitality, I try to probe around why they walked off their God-given mission. I say probe, because they don't even realize what happened, and if I ask the wrong thing, it triggers too much pain, and they shut down. The ones who consciously walked away, I am told not to go get. I get the ones who haven't really faced or realized that they wandered off. Let me tell you about the last two I found. Call them Monday and Tuesday. Monday started off with so much excitement, finding all the apologetical arguments that Jesus is who he says he is. Now that Monday knew this God stuff was real. He wanted to tell everyone thinking they'd be as happy as he was to realize eternal life in a perfect world was possible. But Monday didn't account for others having such different reactions to the news. Most people were not that interested in hearing the case for God. They would nitpick every point he brought up, like they didn't want the story to be true. And some of them he thought were much smarter than him. But they used really dumb arguments to deny the truth. Monday naively thought all these people would jump through hoops like him to see if it was possible that God was real. But instead they burned every bridge to keep God out. Monday had trouble accepting that this wasn't just a mental thing, but kept going on until the devil took notice and started hitting him on every side. If you ever been hit by the devil's schemes and arrows, you know what it's like. And if you haven't, you wouldn't understand. Nor did Monday when he first got the wind knocked out of him by the devil. Monday didn't even know who to talk to. When he first tried to describe what he thought had happened, he was shut down immediately, as it was just a series of bad luck. It wasn't an invisible devil. While people would barely put up with Monday's attempts to prove a loving creator, he was quickly shown people had no patience for a real evil, invisible terrorist. Or worse, how could Monday tell these people that they were delusional and mind-controlled by this invisible terrorist? I know Monday was in shell shock after having the devil show up in his life. Monday was also unsure if he should tell his boss the missing pieces of evidence, and then the boss would see how it all fit together. That the real reason the boss doubted God was because the devil was mind-controlling him. Monday knew it was a Hail Mary, and the boss would likely fire him for being an unstable person. Monday didn't know if he was being a coward, or if he was unnecessarily throwing his pearls before swine. The combination of others' reactions to the evidence of God being so different than his own, taking cover from the arrows of the devil, and the uncertainty of how much do you tell people you're trying to save, left Monday in a pretzel. Monday thought he must be doing something wrong, and until he could figure it out, he'd sit out. I got Monday to read passages in the New Testament where the devil's schemes and arrows are foretold. I got Monday to see he was not doing anything wrong by sharing his faith with zeal. The only thing he got wrong was the expectations of how it would be received, how much people would be willfully deceived. To deal with Monday's shell shock, we talked about if the Bible was right about the attacks from the devil. That's more evidence that the Bible will also be right about how good things will be for those who follow Jesus when they meet him. Now, Tuesday was a more difficult rescue, and you all might pile on Tuesday for being too prideful. But is she really that much worse than you? Tuesday was active in her church. She helped out in the children's classroom on Sunday mornings, the teen night on Wednesdays, and served at the free meals that the church provided for the needy. But no one seemed to notice all that she was doing. When the church had to make decisions, even though she had imparted lots of her energy into running the show, no one asked for her input to how the show should go on. She saw younger women who weren't as active as she was being asked for their input. She wasn't as young as she used to be, and gotten used to not being as noticed out in the world, but she thought it would be different in church. At the teen night, the younger volunteers were asked by the youth pastor if his message was translating and what he could say differently to speak to the younger generation. Tuesday had noted several questionable biblical interpretations the youth pastor was routinely making and should correct in the future, but she was never asked. But Tuesday did overhear the youth pastor mention to the younger volunteers his wife and him were hosting a small get-together, and again, he never mentioned this to her. Tuesday still kept going to her volunteering commitments, but she was about to walk away completely when I bumped into her. Sometimes God sends me preventatively. With Tuesday, you might think all I had to do was tell her I and God sees all that she does and keep it up, and it'd be cruel for me to pile on to her by ignoring her service and criticizing her motives. Remember, God disciplines those He loves. It would be no lasting help to agree with Tuesday that she is underappreciated. Instead, I had her read to me passages about how when God comes back, that those who are first now will be last, and those who are last now will be first. I wanted her to see that she was upset because other creatures were not appreciating her, but she should first sort if the Creator was appreciative of her. She was making an idol out of others. If God sees all, was He missing her works? Also, if God sees everything, even our motives, would He be pleased that she cared more about how others see her, and not enough of how God sees her?